Hi everybody, I want to take just a second and talk about fascia and what it is and why it is important and why it matters. So fascia is this three-dimensional web of connective tissue in our bodies that literally surrounds and connects everything. So if you picture like my arm, right, and you see it from the side, and it's got the bone in the center, and it's got the muscles and the nerves and the arteries and the ligaments and the veins, and they're all kind of going in different directions, and it's this three-dimensional thing. And in between all of those different tissues is this web of connective tissue, is this fascia, right? It's everything in between. It's the glue that holds all of us together. It gives us structure, and it is all connected. So fascia literally goes down and connects to the outside of every cell. It's how we are able to, it's how our bodies know what's happening in every other part. So if I'm standing there and something's falling off the counter and I reach for it, and I have to, on a split second, change my base of support and shift my weight and fire different muscles, and all of that happens instantly because of this fascial network, right? There's information. Think about it like a power grid, and there's all of this information traveling along it all the time. And so we're getting this feedback, right? So let's picture like the back of somebody's body. So you've got kind of from their feet up through their glutes, across their back, shoulder, out to their arm, right? Picture that as that web, that grid. So if I reach forward and, to shift my weight and pick something up off of a desk, I'm getting this information down through my heels, through my back, through my glutes about changing the load, and I'm having to fire my glutes and my back a little bit more. And then depending on whether I pick up a pencil or whether I pick up a really heavy bag, I'm going to have to recruit muscles differently to lift that load. So let's say that 15 years ago I had a back injury. So now in this section of my low back, that grid, that web of connective tissue that needs to be mobile and dynamic and fluid as I move and bend, is now, since my injury, when you get injured, it causes restriction and adhesions and sticky spots and dense spots in that connective tissue web. So now, for 15 years, I've had this zone in my low back where that tissue is just kind of stuck and sticky and dense, and it doesn't move and stretch and glide like it should, right? So now when I go to reach, and you're picturing from my heel all the way up through my low back up to my shoulder and my arm, it's supposed to be flowing across that grid, this information, stretching and going, oh, okay, cool, I got this. But now in my low back, there's this area where that information can't get through. That power grid is messed up there, right? So information can't travel through there. My body can't get the correct feedback about stretch and where I'm moving in space and how much load is being added. So, that's when I go to pick up that heavy bag, but I don't have the right feedback. I don't have the right stability happening in my hip and my glutes because of this deadened thick spot in my low back, right? So then I maybe strain my shoulder because I'm not compensating correctly. So the message is we have this web, this grid of connective tissue that allows us feedback, allows us to be mobile and dynamic and fluid, but it gets sticky, it gets stuck, it gets adhered when we have injury, when we have trauma, when we have overuse, when we work out too much, and and that's how we get healthy and stronger. But we need to take care of it, right? So when there's sticky spots and dense spots, we need to release them. And it's not only I find that it doesn't just necessarily go away with movement and stretching, right? Sometimes it takes actually getting in there and releasing the tissue physically, manually. Be it with body work, deep tissue massage, rolfing, myofascial release, or getting in there with the tools that you have, a foam roller or a lacrosse ball or a wit ball or any number of, there's so many things, right? You could use your own hands to release things. So the big overarching message is we need this system to be mobile and dynamic and fluid and balanced, right? So I find, and I encourage everybody, whatever movement practice you have, whether it's yoga or you just get up in the morning and you do some stretches, or at least once a day you just get into child's pose or whatever, pay attention, be mindful, right? So notice the imbalances in your system. So if you go into a child's pose stretch and you're just kind of hanging out there for a second, you're like, oh my God, wow, there's really a lot more tightness in my right shoulder, and it pulls down into the back of my arm. Don't just do nothing about that, right? Maybe if you just noticed it and then after a couple days it balances out, okay. But if that lingers and you're like, oh my God, my right shoulder's really tight, you have to balance that out. You have to get in there and work that out. You go see somebody and you get it massaged, you get it worked out, you get on the foam roller, you get on a ball. You have to even that system out, because it's those things that, when left to linger, change the feedback in your system, they change the tension in your system. So some wound up tissue in the back of your right rotator cuff is going to then tighten that web up and put tension through your low back, put tension through your neck, which then next time I go to reach down to get a box, I now have too much tension in my low back, and that's when I strain my low back because of something that was happening in my shoulder. So you have to pay attention, look for the imbalances in your system, look for the places that pull too much, and then you try to even them out. You release them, you go get body work by somebody who knows what they're doing. You just try to even out the tension in your system and restore that mobility and that flow. That's how you prevent injury and things coming back. So the other big player in fascial tissue health is kind of the bigger system-wide pieces. Hydration is crucial. Sleep is super important. Stress obviously plays a really big role. They've shown that the fight or flight response, so just increasing cortisol in your system, actually causes fascia to constrict and contract. So whatever that looks like for you, meditation, getting out in nature, taking walks, and then nutrition is a big thing, right? So being aware of the things that cause irritation and inflammation in your system. Big players are sugar and dairy and gluten, but not for everyone. So eat well, get sleep, stay hydrated, meditate, and pay attention and do something about it. Don't ignore it.